back, so nowhere near smooth or anything to...
Right. We'll be generous with the glue.
You gotta be...
Okay, so that's there. So, between these rock castings, we have to have various areas of foliage. Now, you can cut these with a knife or a pair of scissors. You can do whatever you like. I don't want it to be smooth, though. What this is going to have is foliage in here. So you want it to have some depth so that it, what we talked about before, remember? Interest. Everything jumps. You don't want to have areas. So I'm wetting this, coming up along here. Is this what we're going to do here? Don't know, but for now it is.
That sticks pretty good to the foam, Steve, the plaster cloth.
Oh, sure. No issue with that at all. Yep. And again, we can cover that with a layer of hydrocal to give it more rigidity. Say that 12 times fast after 4 Mai Tais. It's the rigidity, I tell you.
Is it sticking well because the casting is still wet from your...
No, it just always does.
Okay, so even if the casting had been totally dry.
Right. It would just hook right on just like it belonged there.
It's easy.
Now I'm doubling up some of them because I want them to have more volume. See how I did that one? All right, why don't you go in close and look. Absolutely right. I had one of the ones that was a wire, and after I broke the wire 3 times in 30 minutes, I went up on the web and found this. All I'm doing is holding it. I'm not doing anything else. Let's see how this looks now. Oh, I mean, melted your plastic. We're almost there. Almost there, Rob. Whoa. What?
Now you know why I brought my rain jacket.
Raining?
Raining.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a shower.
A little wet out there, guys?
Yeah, my window's up, okay.
All right. Why am I doing it that way? It looks good. What I think I'm going to do is taper this after this is in to kind of give this an area so we can put like a field with just rough plants and things on it. But we're going to do that next week. Okay? So, this is set. We're going to glue it. No questions.
So the other reason you might be planning to angle that top is you want to avoid straight lines, especially obvious straight lines.
Yeah, horizon.
Angles are great. Let's go over that. That's a great idea, George. Angles are wonderful. Boxes, circles, you don't want them. You want lots of curves, lots of angles, lots of interest. Now that's already stuck. See that? I'm trying to move it off. So,
Paul, what's that called?
what?
To glue?
It's
Liquid
Liquid
Nails.
Nails Projects.
And that's designed specifically for styrofoam.
Liquid Nails Projects.
If you use the other liquid nail, it'll eat right through. So now I'm gonna take the hot knife, which I put right over here.
Right there.
Thank you. So let's do this. I'm gonna use the plaster, because the plaster isn't gonna melt. I try to use the full extension on the knife, if I can. Coming down. Anybody think this is too hard? But I prefer the foam because it's a good basis, and unlike wire, you can do anything you want with it. If I want to do this, I can do that. I'm getting steam. Everything has 3 colors. I don't care if you're painting a person or a building. When you weather a building, you're creating the shadow and the dirt. But if you do the whole car or engine in the grime, you lose the highlight. Do not do that, please. You have to have a highlight to play up the shadow. Always try to remember that.
Will you be using any of these bits and pieces as part?
Now, why not? So now I'm going to show you how to put this on and make it stay. If you just put this on,
It'll fall off.
there's a good chance it'll fall off. I don't like it like that. I like it like that.
Unless you stay there all night and hold it.
Been known to do that. Anything you have that'll just give it the least bit of tension. Why did I choose it that way?
Because it's got horizontal cuts rather.
Yeah.
Exactly. Has horizontal cuts, but it also flows into this one. If you look at it, it goes 1, 2, 3.
Right.
So let's play a little bit with this. Let's see what we can do. Could you get that out of there, Paul, for me? I don't want to cook my hand again. We did that once this week. That's enough.
Not with that.
So now the plaster cloth, that would be sufficient to hold that in place?
Well, we're going to add plaster over it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But the answer is yes. Anybody feel that this is beyond their, this is a rhetorical question, I don't want an answer. Anybody that feels this is beyond their abilities, I would disagree. You're all totally capable of this. This is, all you have to do is
I'm
say,
living proof.
I want to try it.
Yes.
Unless you're left-handed.
I am left-handed. I'm ambidextrous.
I knew that.
I'm both.
Now you just quickly dipping that plaster cloth in there.
If you put it in too long,
You lose the plaster.
Plaster all goes away, right?
Okay.
so if I have a vertical section here that is made out of plaster, what do you think is going to happen? Like this. We're just going to make a shrub.
Cover the line.
It becomes a bump and added interest again, George. So, questions, answers? I don't know, maybe? Now this is one of those that you can do amazing things with. Doesn't matter what you do, any way is right. I don't quite like that.
That's better.
Much better.
Yes.
Yeah, because the other rocks are going horizontal.
So we had a question earlier, Paul. How do we hide this seam?
Right.
Well, if we have this rock out like this, that seam is partially hidden.
Oh, okay.
But now, what happens when you take the module
In the
apart?
trail.
I don't know.
That seam is because the unit comes apart?
Right, it's two modules.
Oh,
So are you going to slice that?
Don't know. Maybe.
that would
That's
make
pretty straight.
Too straight. Okay.
So we'll glue that.
Of course, the other issue with the trailer is the height of this thing.
Is it
It's
too high?
actually 4 inches lower than the old Fitzy Mountain.
If you don't put anything on the top.
Right. But I brought it down 4 inches.
Okay.
The top of this is 4 inches lower than the trees that were on Fitzy's Mountain.
But as you may recall, Fitzy's Mountain had a lot of bent trees at the
Right,
top.
that's why I dropped it. That's why I dropped it, so we probably do have about 2 inches of play that we could actually put something up there to change the landscape from flat.
Well, actually, that would be prototype because you get high winds on top of mountains.
That's right.
Than trees.
So again, this is modular 2 units there?
Yes.
2
Yes.
units.
It's a corner and then a 4 foot by 3 foot rectangle.
Cool. And the track separates too? The
Yeah.
track? Okay.
Yeah.
You
They
know,
have,
we have 6-inch pieces of track that join the two sections
two
together.
That have styrene on the bottom, so when they are ballast, you can ballast right over them, and then they'll be able to pop out, and they stay with the module.
Notice with this, you're being careful to put all sorts of cement around the edges, and yet you didn't seem to do that to the others.
This has a bulge out in it, George,
Okay.
so I'm concerned a little bit. I'm probably gonna even add some more. But I've added it where I thought I needed it initially. Now this one, I'm gonna work with a bunch of small ones of these.
Up top,
There's one right there.
it's the projects.
Now where you're seeing white here, this is ultimately gonna be green. There'll be all kinds of foliage, and we may even add another rock or two.